So I just want to warn you, I'm going to use the F word today. Somebody's clapping. Yay, she's going to use the F word. It's forgive. Where your mind goes. Anyway, yesterday morning I was in a workshop it was in Denver. It was for ministers on trauma advocacy. And somebody mentioned that they will never forgive their perpetrator, ever, because they don't deserve it. And I thought, ooh, I want to have a talk with you. We look at forgiveness a little different in Unity than that. We can look at society. It seems like our society is more about revenge than forgiveness. It seems like it's more about power and domination than love and unity. Not in here, but out there. It seems like people just want to get even and get that person that hurt us. And nobody's going to get one over on me. It seems like that. And we know, and studies show, that revenge does not help our mental stability, does not help our emotional well-being. It doesn't help us. It may feel good in one brief moment, but then we live with the regret of that. Studies show that forgiveness does help us have more peace of mind, to have more love in our lives, to feel better about ourselves, to have more hope. And yet, it's harder to do. It's a hard thing to do, forgiveness, to forgive. And I share that, and we're talking about forgiveness because on October 1st is Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur in the Jewish faith is the Day of Atonement, or Day of At-One-ment. Kippur, Yom means day, and Kippur translates really to cleansing. And I was reading one rabbi's writings that said that God is doing laundry on this day, that God is cleansing, and we're all the ones that have the marks on our soul that need to be cleaned. So Yom Kippur is this week. So it's an opportunity for us to look at where in our lives do we need to forgive. And mostly it's about forgiving ourselves. Yes, people hurt us. Yes, we are human, and yes, we mess up. We just do. Brené Brown says this about that. There are no perfect people. There are just people who are good at pretending they never mess up. Right? You probably know some of those people. And they've hurt you. And we have an opportunity to not hang on to that story, not hang on to that pain, that hurt. I often wondered why Yom Kippur came after Rosh Hashanah. In my Catholic upbringing, in my Christian upbringing, in Unity, we do the burning bowl at the end of the year. So we release all those things, and then we have New Year's. And then we set our intentions for the year. So why do the Jewish people have Rosh Hashanah, which is the new year, and then they do the forgiveness work? And I've thought, well, that's kind of backwards. But I didn't really understand Rosh Hashanah the way I do now. You see, Rosh Hashanah is, yes, a new beginning. It's a new beginning because we are returning to ourselves. We're returning to that divine essence. We're reconciling ourselves, our personality selves, our ego selves, with the divine part of ourselves. And it's a new beginning when we do that, and we see things differently when we do that. And so we have to do that before we even know that there's something to forgive. We have to return to ourselves and see from a broader perspective. We're invited into that. See, until we return to ourselves, we don't know when we're missing the mark. And in Unity, we say forgiveness is really about giving something up. So what are we giving up? We're giving up that hurt. We're giving up that story. We're giving up that pain. We're giving up that identity that we are so consumed with about that person hurt me. Or I hurt myself. Maybe I've stayed in a relationship that's not healthy for me too long. Or maybe I'm punishing myself because of something I said, and I don't even know if it hurt them, but I feel bad about it. You know, there's so many things that we do where we can mess up. And we're human, and that's okay. But we're not always aware of it. And so Rosh Hashanah, the blowing up of that shofar to wake us up, to bring us to that realization, to return to ourselves, then we can reflect. Then we can, because we live in the world, we're going to have stuff to let go of. We're going to have stuff to forgive. We're going to have to let go of that. In Unity, we say sin is just missing the mark. We didn't get there. We missed the mark. And it's okay. But we hang on to it way too long, and we punish ourselves. There's a quote in a book called Beyond Forgiveness from Phil Cousineau. The power of the acts of forgiveness and atonement is the recognition of the flaw in all of us, without exception, as well as the realization of our ultimate unity. When we are at one, we are united, side by side and together. Our sense of ourselves as separate is illusion, what our senses report. We're out in the world, and our senses and our egos, and it thinks we're all separate, but we're not. Yom Kippur is a chance to come back, get to that oneness place again. I often wondered when I was growing up, I was Catholic as a little girl and would go to confession every week. And that was where we confessed our sins and we were forgiven, and we could, do our little penance and go on. And then as I became an adult and I was still a practicing Catholic, I went to confession once a month. And I often wondered, how come the Jewish people only have to do this once a year? How come they only do atonement once a year? How do they remember everything from the whole year? But it's a beautiful ritual that they have. It's the holiest of holy days in the Jewish faith, because we come back. We let go. We vow to have another year, and we have to do it in this order. When you really understand, to come back to yourself, reflect, look inside, and then atone for whatever we did wrong, and vow to have the next year different. Do we want to live the same year over? Just Happy New Year, let's live the same year over. No, we need to do something before we live the whole next year. And so this is our chance. Every time we come back to ourselves, and it doesn't have to be once a year, but every time we return, every time we remember who we are, we can reflect on, something doesn't feel right. There might be a need to forgive. There might be a need to make amends. And a lot of times it's on ourselves. It's for ourselves. I've shared many times I'm the oldest of 6, and I think as a result, I have this really strong sense of responsibility. And if I don't live up to my own standards, my inner critic comes out and it is mean. And I punish myself pretty badly. I'm really hard on myself. And I take away my joy. I take away my own happiness. I take away my own peace, my own hope. And then I know I need to forgive myself. Forgive myself for doing that part of me that wants to steal it, the part of me that wants to keep me in prison. And we all have a part of us that wants to hang on to that story, hang on to that hurt, hang on to that guilt, because who would I be without it? Brené Brown says this: self-forgiveness is not about never feeling pain again. It's refusing to let it define who you are today. That guilt that we hang on to, that pain that we hang on to, don't let it define you. It's not worth our peace of mind. We are here to live life and live it abundantly and live it joyfully and live it happily. That is our purpose. I think it was Thomas Troward said, that is our main purpose in life, is to be happy. How are we doing? How are we doing with that? I read a story in Beyond Forgiveness that Howard Thurman shared. And it's a man who is going to bed at night and he's aware that somebody has hurt him and he needs to forgive this person. And so before he goes to sleep, and he's aware that there's a need for forgiveness. So that's, a step in the right direction, because a lot of times we're not even aware of it. But he's aware, and so he says, God, please, help me forgive this person. He drifts off to sleep, and in his dream, an angel comes to visit him. And the angel shows him how forgiveness is letting go of resentment, how it helps us, that it's really for us to forgive. So we're not hanging on to those hurts. And so the man wakes up, he remembers his dream, and he thinks, okay, yeah, I can forgive this person now. And by the end of the day, he goes to bed and he's still feeling it. And so his prayer is a little stronger this night, and he says, come on, God, how can I forgive this person? I need to let this go. I need to forgive. And he drifts off to sleep, and again, the angel visits him, and this time the angel takes him out of his body. And they go to visit this man that hurt him's lifeline. He sees from the time he was born and all the events in his life and all the circumstances in his life and all the hurt that he experienced in his life, right up to the point where this person committed the hurtful thing against the guy that's dreaming. And he realizes this is the best he could have done. Based on all that he's been through, based on all his life circumstances, this is the best he could have done. So he wakes up in the morning and he remembers this and he's like, that's the best he could have done. That's the best possibility based on where he was in his consciousness. And he vows he's going to forgive him. And the next night, that night he goes to bed again and he's still feeling it. And so he gets down on his knees and he's begging. We've all been there, begging God for something. God, I really need to let go of this. Show me how I can really forgive. And so he, again, drifts off to sleep. The angel visits him again, takes him out of his body again. And this time he takes him beyond the veil. And he sees God creating a soul. And he's creating the soul of this man that hurt him. And then he gasps because he realizes it's him that he's creating. And this man is, oh my gosh, that man that hurt me is me. We are one. We are all the same. And he realized that self-forgiveness is what he needed. And he woke up in the morning and he was ready to let it go, to just release it. What we need is self-forgiveness. Before we can forgive anyone else, we have to forgive ourselves. For whatever hurt we've caused ourselves, whatever prison we've caused ourselves to be in, whatever thoughts we're holding, whatever negativity, cycle of negativity we're living through. See, if I can't forgive me, then how can I possibly look at you and see the human being with all of our flaws, that we all have flaws, but to know that it's not personal. We need to forgive ourselves so that we can then extend it out. It's just like loving yourself enough so that then you can come from that place and express from there. There's a quote I want to share from a blog page I found. Forgiveness is a journey, one of acceptance, of loving myself, of knowing I am enough and worthy. Forgiving ourselves is perhaps one of the most extraordinary acts of love and compassion we can extend to ourselves. So we're invited to give ourselves some kindness, give ourselves some compassion, some love, some forgiveness. And it's a process. We're going to do a ritual shortly, in just a moment, looking at the time, very shortly. And it's not a one or done. This is symbolic of starting the process, okay? Forgiveness, there's layers to it. And Jesus said, 70 times 7. It's an ongoing, all the time process of forgiving, of letting go, of not holding on to that pain, that story, that identity, and giving ourselves love. So, in a moment, everyone has a piece of flash paper, right? Does everyone have one? If you don't have one, raise your hand and our greeters can come around with it. Anybody need one? There's a couple over here. Okay, so I'm going to invite you in just a minute to take 7 deep breaths from the diaphragm. And once you've taken those breaths, reflect. Where do I need to forgive? Who do I need to forgive? Maybe what do I need to forgive? What am I willing to forgive to start that process? This is our unity power of release. We can release. We release first in consciousness. And then once you have something that you want to work with, you can write it. There's pens on all the rows. You can share. You don't even have to write it down. Just put the energy into the paper. And then you can put it into the flame once I light this. But I want to read a poem by Rabbi Jill Hammer that maybe can help you think of something that you want to let go of. I cast this gift to the water, because it's all a gift. Awareness, anything is a gift, and we're going to cast it into the flame, not the water. So let's go with, this is just part of her poem, but it's beautiful. It is my past, blessing and regret. It is my present, reflection and listening. It is my future, intention and mystery. It is what I did and did not. It is yes and no and silence. It is what was done and what arose from what was done and what arises in this body remembering. I let it all go. I own neither the sting nor the sweetness. I hold on to nothing. So I'm going to invite you to take those 7 deep breaths. I'm going to light the flame. Please come up the middle aisle and go back on the side aisle so we don't get some traffic jams up here. Okay.